Blood Time, the podcast that speaks to the bond, the emotion between coach and athlete at the interscholastic and intercollegiate level. Each interview, each segment will reveal that bond and what was learned, how they were transformed, and what each athlete took to the world at large from that transformation. These stories will warm your heart and astound you altogether. Submitted for your approval. Now it is Blood Time. We are Blood. Welcome to the second episode of Blood Time. I want to thank our previous guests, Sonny Marchetti, the head coach at Notre Dame College, home of the Falcons, and Mark Haywald, head coach at the Blue Streaks of John Carroll University, both head coaches for the wonderful sport of wrestling. I also want to thank my marvelous producer, Maverick Peters, and we want to also thank our new guest. And our guest today is a young man that I've known since he was 14 years old, Scott Safenovitz, a 25-year veteran of the Chagrin Falls Police Department, and he has served our community and our country since the early 90s. Scott, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Scott, so today we talk about Blood Time. I know that you played two sports, I think maybe more for sure, in high school at Beechwood High School. I coached you, and complete transparency, I coached you as your head wrestling coach for 4 years. You were the captain of our 91 team. But I also know that you didn't wrestle, but you played football for a Hall of Fame coach, Joe Perella.
I did.
He also coached my brother Craig. Tell me a little bit about that team, those lessons, and of course the lessons learned in the wrestling room at Beechwood.
Well, both sports, the lessons I learned have carried me a lifetime. Mm-hmm. More than, I hate to say it, more than the academics. I can't remember what I learned in calculus, but I remember the disciplines, the camaraderie that you had with the coaches, your teammates, the discipline to just push through adversity physically and mentally. Right. I think high school sports and sports for that matter are great for that. Mm-hmm. When it comes to football, it's not just a physical toughness, it's a mental toughness. For me, I was a 145-pound nose tackle and was first team all-conference 2 years in Ohio my senior year. Certainly not on my physical attributes at 5 foot nothing, 145 pounds, but it's a mental toughness and
hard too, though, right? A lot of heart,
and there's gonna be a little meanness in there
Indeed.
too. I think too,
a little grit.
But it was just such a great feeling to be pushed by such a great coach in Joe Perella. And his staff was so amazing. We wanted to do well. Like my senior year, we went 8-2. Sure. And people looked at us like that was a disappointment because we were so good. Right. And 8-2, most schools would have been happy with that. We were like, ugh, we kind of stunk.
But what I heard was that and I never had the joy of playing for Joe because I was a lot older at the time. But I heard that he created a family atmosphere that was you couldn't beat his family atmosphere.
You couldn't beat it. We were pretty much the only, you would say, diverse team in the conference, and he would get you so fired up before if he played, more of a, school that didn't have the diversity.
Right.
You guys
more of a homogeneous.
Yes. And
makeup.
you guys are this, but you're family. You might be, black, white. We're a family, and we're all together. It doesn't matter our differences, and we're going to go out and kick their ass. And and he just created such a family atmosphere, and also that tough love.
Sure.
I mean, his staff and him. They weren't the coaches who would. Yeah, you got yelled at when you screwed up, but it was okay. I think it's a different.
It was love there.
Total love there, and it was awesome. It was great to be a part of those dominant Beechwood football teams of the late '80s, early '90s, and wrestling. I mean, I don't have to tell you, it was family too. I mean, everything, the struggles we had, and The first year, freshman year, we weren't a very good team. And every year we developed until we were a dominant team by, senior year.
Yeah, you guys, your senior year, I think, won 14 dual meets.
We did, and we beat the Division III state champs that year, Ledgemont.
Exactly, and I also believe that we set a pretty good precedent at the sectional tournament, too, did we not? We scored a lot of points.
We beat on a lot of other teams, and started not the best as freshmen.
Exactly.
Took a lot of lumps,
yep.
And it could have been easy to quit for a lot of us because it's no fun losing.
Right.
But again, it's that mental toughness. It's that grit to continue forward. It would have been a lot easier to say, I'm done with this.
Right.
I'm going to go home
yep.
and eat Twinkies and Ho-Hos and pizza, which I enjoy.
Who doesn't, right? Especially the Twinkies.
Hell yeah. And yet
Twinkie defense.
Yeah, and not have to worry about your weight.
Right.
And because again, wrestling, it's an individual sport. When you win, it's all you. But when you get your butt kicked, you can't blame anybody but
yourself. It's a very
yourself
honest sport, right, Scott? It's a very honest
sport. You can't hide.
Right.
You can't hide.
Let me ask you about your assistant coaches. Was there an assistant coach that you bonded with on the football team that became your guy? There was a guy like that for me. Like you, I was a very small, I was a 5'7", 150-pound center, and there was a guy by the name of Dave Capostasi who was my guy. I just knew that he had my back. Was there a guy like that on the football team?
Sure, Coach T.I.
Yeah, right.
He, he definitely liked me because he was a little
off, kind of like you.
Little off, and I think we had that bonding. Like,
sure.
You call me wild man, crazy man,
right?
Because I was a little off. He used to bang my head on the field before the plays,
sure.
So I think we were kind of kindred spirits of sorts, one might say. So he kind of was there for me. But again, tough love. If I needed to get yelled at, they had no problem yelling at me.
Yep.
I took it.
And how did that affect you? And then how did that affect you going forward? How did that transform you into your adulthood?
You know what? You just learn. How it transformed me as an adult, the lessons from football, wrestling, from the coaching staff, is that, sometimes you got to get a kick in the ass, from your, from the people who care about you, that are trying to mold you into an adult. Sure. And, as a kid, you don't maybe see it as, as much sometimes, it's like, but as an adult, you say, boy, that coach was right. That parent was right. That neighbor adult was right.
It's amazing how smart they got between the ages of 18 and 21, right?
Yes, and now and I've carried it over. Sure. I'd like to say to my police career where.
Tell me about that. Yeah.
Where, working in Chagrin, I've been a juvenile officer pretty much since day one. I've been in the schools as an SRO, school resource officer. That's what SRO is.
Okay.
I've deal with juvenile crimes. I even when not in the school, I'm always walking around, messing around with the kids, having fun. I never turn a blind eye to their poor decisions and poor behavior,
right?
Because it's not personal, but I do my job.
You have to do your job.
I do my job, but I also get along well with the kids.
Right. So you empathize with them.
I empathize with them, but I do my job. So I think it's carried over to those lessons of sort of tough love that you need sometimes. Okay. There's been kids I've pulled aside who I know, are going down the wrong path.
Sure.
Whether it's, for whatever reason, it doesn't always have to be criminal.
Yep.
And just to try to guide them and help them and quite frankly, I've seen kids decades later who I've seen during Blossom Weekend, which is like our big memorial festival.
Beautiful time in the end of May, right?
It is nice.
Yeah,
Not
fantastic.
nice to be a policeman there, but it's nice to
wacky.
be there. Nice
Indeed.
to be there.
Right.
But I've seen kids who, decades later, hey, Officer Scott, last name's long. They just call me Scott. I think I'll retire with them thinking that's my last name. I'm so sorry I was like a jackass when I was in high school. It's like, hey, I don't take it personal. And they've grown, but they see, kind of the coaching lessons that I've kind of passed on to them.
Gotcha.
Through, maybe not a sport, but I try to coach them in
life.
Doing life, because certainly, again, I was no saint. I made my mistakes in life, as we all do, but I think that's the key, is learning from your mistakes, and if you have positive things you could pass on to the next generation, I certainly try to.
Yeah, and that's awesome, because really you are serving all of us, as the line of defense to some degree.
Sure.
To the last line of defense. But also to the first line of humanity.
Yeah.
Because that's really, in my estimation, your title is a peace officer.
Sure.
Correct? So when you're out there patrolling, keeping vigilance, you're there to serve and protect. But more importantly, you're there as our first line of humanity. That's the first thing that you're the first person somebody is going to see when they make their first really bad decision.
In many cases, yes. We would like to think in a lot of cases, yes, we're part of the process, but it all begins at home.
Sure.
We'd love, the parents to.
Well, you're
be
not
involved.
a parent. Yeah,
we're not the parent, but unfortunately,
you're not society's
sometimes,
parents. Yes.
Unfortunately, sometimes people look at us.
Indeed.
They want us to be the parent for their
Right.
child.
Right.
But it's a community effort. It's the school. It's
Right.
the teachers. It's the administrators. It's the coaches.
Yep.
It's the parents. It's the police.
Right.
It's your dentist.
Yes.
So we kind of.
It's your
it's
minister.
everything.
It's your priest. It's your rabbi.
It's
Whoever
everything.
it is. Yeah.
It's everything.
Absolutely.
And
So tell me, obviously, we had hard practices,
Oh,
and
my
I
goodness.
remember a few times where I saw you and Paul not doing well.
Yeah.
At the end of practices,
No, yeah.
because of the hard practices that we had. But I know personally that I can outwork people, most people, and when the chips come down, I can really, kind of grit it out. Was that something that you learned, or was there something different that you learned from those types of practices that only wrestling can give?
Boy, wrestling practice, that's an animal in itself.
Isn't it?
You go from football, which was tough, but
Sure.
also was fun. Football practice is fun, lining up, hitting people.
Right.
It wasn't that intense. It was tapered down each week, leading up to Friday nights or Saturday days
Sure.
if there was a Saturday.
Well, you had to, so you could have a healthy team,
You had
right?
to.
Yeah.
But wrestling was morning practice.
Right.
And then after school, and it was so demanding and exhausting, and
Yeah.
it made you mentally tough. But
Yep.
it was tough. You couldn't just go home and go carb up or eat to your heart's content. You had to work your butt off, and then go home and eat a 500 calorie salad and go to bed on it. Because
Right.
you're always watching what you're.
Or once in a while, maybe a piece of chicken or a piece of
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. And so it was just it was a 24-hour. I hate to say job, because it certainly wasn't a paying job, but it was a job, wrestling, unlike any other thing. And it was just so mentally and physically, it definitely makes you stronger in all aspects. And but it's not fun. Wrestling, any wrestling practice says, hey, it's fun. They're crazy if someone says it's fun. It's not fun. But again, the results of winning are the best.
Yeah.
But again, you look at the bonding you have with your staff, your coaches, your assistant, the head coach, the assistants, the other wrestlers, because you're all going through it together.
Right.
It's brutal.
Well, I know that you were really close with Paul Martin.
Oh yeah.
You're
Still one of my friends to this day.
Yeah, your co-captain.
Oh yeah.
And of course, you had the current athletic director, one of the top guys, and good friend of mine, dear friend of mine, Ryan Peters, as
Sure.
your co-captain as well. Tell me a little bit about those life friendships that occurred because of that bond and what that means to you.
Well, Paul lives in Virginia now,
Right.
and we still keep in touch. We have
Right.
children around the same age.
That's cool.
So we kind of compare notes here and there, and he's doing great. We still talk. It's like whenever I run into people from high school, it's always nice to see people here and there.
Right.
But that's the one, when I see him, it always just or talk to him. I don't have to talk to him for months, but
Right.
it's like as soon as we talk, nothing changes. Because we went through the trenches together, between football and wrestling, and it was just amazing. And with Ryan, I mean, same thing.
Sure.
Ran's busy.
Oh, yeah.
He's always busy. Whenever you call him,
he's running a lot of teams at Beechwood
he's running
High
the
School.
show at Beechwood. And,
That's right.
But it's so great just to have that bond with those guys, and
Right.
you always have a funny story with them. And I was just telling someone about it last week at work.
Okay, share the story.
Before my senior year, the Plain Dealer came out, did an article on
Remember it.
on the stat. You guys and Ryan, Paul, and I, basically a nice preview before wrestling.
Sure.
And they took a picture of the three of us posing with the coaching staff in the Plain
Right.
Dealer.
Right.
And at the time, my last name is Safenovitz. It's a long last name. You're not going to find too many in the phone book. Right. And back then, you had your kids line and all that nonsense.
Sure.
So the night it was in the Plain Dealer.
The days of landlines. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Not many left anymore.
Not too many.
Right.
So that night, I'm at home, got my own kids line, one might say, and I get a phone call from a lady. Yeah. Hello, is Scott there? Yeah. Like, this is. She's like, what are you wearing? I'm like, what the heck is going on? Me, I'm 18 years old. I hang up the phone. Now it's like, oh my God, I could have so much fun messing with her. But back then, it's like, so that's always a funny memory I'll always have because of that Plain Dealer picture.
I was able to get you a little
entertainment.
Fun stuff.
And it was entertaining, and I will never forget that. And it was hysterical. Funny as to no end.
Absolutely.
And so that's always a funny memory of all of us being together.
So who is that is a great memory. So who is your favorite assistant coach on the wrestling team?
Well, that's
there a favorite.
It's funny. I'll describe wrestling as this for anyone who doesn't understand wrestling. Mm-hmm. There's the head coach and his assistant coaches. The head coach is basically there to make sure the assistants don't just destroy you in all avenues. The head coach is the one who basically coaches the assistants. Say, okay, these guys have had enough. Yeah. So I can't say. You could say you have a favorite assistant coach because their job was
to kill you.
To kill you.
Right.
Both my assistant coaches were great in their own ways. Michael Goldberg and Scott Peters, and they did their job. Oof,
yes,
again, as I was telling you before, the person I would least want to meet in a dark alley to this day is Scott Peters.
That's awesome.
He's
a tough guy. He's a tough guy.
To this day.
Absolutely.
Him and Ryan.
But he had a lot of love for you.
Oh, sure. And go there. But Ryan and I joke about it that we'd be in the fetal position if he came at us still. Even at our age.
That's an incredible. Attribute. A tribute to the scenario that we created there, right?
Again, these are memories. I'm been out of high school going on 30 years.
And so when I see you say this, and obviously on the podcast we can't see this, I see there's a glint in your eye,
I get excited.
A smile on your face, and there's love in your heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. Life continues on, and certainly I'd like, I joke sometimes like I'm Al Bundy. I think I, peaked in high school with, really football. Football, I did very well in wrestling, but football I really excelled in.
You did really well, yeah.
However, joking aside that I'm that I'm the real life Al Bundy.
That is funny.
You've progressed. I did graduate college. I have had an honorable profession for 23 plus years.
23, okay.
And continuing to go on.
Sure.
God willing, I make my 25.
Yeah, exactly.
And I should.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely getting you there.
I'm getting there.
That's right.
And your life progresses. Religiously, I went from not being religious to suddenly,
being religious.
Finding God. So you have. Transformation. It's constantly going. However, it's always nice to have those memories of your coaching staff, and your teammates. And again, I can't tell you who sat next to me in English class my senior year, but I could sure tell you about the locker room in both football and wrestling and how much fun we had.
Absolutely.
So, great lessons.
Hey, this is Coach Cimarroni for Cimarroni Couture. We have a Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's special that we'd love to present to you guys. Buy one suit at $10.95 or higher and get one at 50% off now until January 2nd. Or buy one entry-level suit at $7.95 and get a shirt for free. Check us out at Cimarroni Couture. That's Cimarroni Couture, 216-287-1522, 216-287-1522. So Scott, you're a peace officer, but you also have some other hobbies and some other interests in your life, and I know that you're doing some private work as well.
Yeah.
and you're also doing some other hobbies. So tell me a little bit about how that bond affected what you're currently doing. And I know that you have an incredible work ethic, and you're really working hard. I mean, because I can't get you in the room at Chagrin Falls because you're working so hard.
I work a lot.
So tell me a little bit about that and how that relates back to both the wrestling room and the football field.
Yeah, and probably, I mean, I think a work ethic's inside of you, no matter what. But definitely the lessons of hard work of sports, especially the sports of football and wrestling. And I really always will go back to wrestling.
Sure,
it's so tough. It just carries you over that, because of my work ethic. I'd like to say, on my days off, I do have other jobs. I do hustle. I do do what I need to do. If I have 2 days off a month, that's a good month. Yeah. And but you got to also balance it with the family, with keeping your health up, exercise.
Yes.
It's a tough balance. Sometimes it's the sleep that's lacking for me.
Sure.
I'm lucky sometimes to get 4 hours sleep. Because unfortunately, police work isn't Monday through Friday 8 to 4. It's around the clock, weekends. Just because I'm 23 plus years on doesn't mean I'm still not working midnights. While everyone else is sleeping.
Yes.
I'm
You're doing your thing.
Dealing with drunks, and
Absolutely.
that's not so fun sometimes.
So that leads me to, I think, one of our last questions is that you've been doing this for 23 years.
Sure.
In those 23 years, society has changed. Tell me some of the biggest changes in society, both good and bad, that you've seen on the streets.
Well, good.
Yeah.
People, they appreciate you.
Okay.
I think it's the good and the bad is the ones that appreciate you really do now.
Okay.
Because they know it's very difficult.
Gotcha.
And again, I don't need people to thank me for
Of
my
course
service,
not.
but people do.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't like that at the beginning, but because I think people know, even working in a nice suburb where I work, certainly
a beautiful suburb.
it still has our issues, and there's still safety issues, and it's a mobile society. There are bad people live there, and also bad people drive through every town every day. It's the world we live in. So one aspect of society, I think people kind of see the nonsense of the world we're in now, and they're appreciative of what we do.
Okay.
Also, the exact opposite. People are a lot more disrespectful.
Are they?
Oh my goodness. And I don't take it personal. Yeah, there are times it's like you bite
your speech bubbles like, oh my God.
You bite your tongue a lot.
Right.
But then I say to myself, I have 2 more years. You ain't gonna see me on the YouTube videos. I'm gonna get through this with a big smile on my face.
Gotcha.
And you're not gonna push my buttons, and you have to learn to count to 10. A lot of times in your head,
maybe 20,
and I think that's the one thing is people are a lot more appreciative.
Some,
and then on the other side is people are a lot more disrespectful.
So what you're seeing is a big schism, if you will,
Correct.
Bifurcation of society that hasn't been there in the past. There was a lot more in the middle, and now today there's more.
The middle is not the norm.
Gotcha.
I mean, you drive by and people will give you the bird when you're just driving. It's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
You'd see that here and there back in the day. Now it's quite common, believe it or not. It's just, and again, okay, what are you going to do? Nothing. You can't.
Exactly.
So they want you to do something because that's
right.
You react. It's not going to happen.
So, but you just zen out and you just say, hey, I got to take care of what.
But you bite your tongue and you do what you got to do.
Right.
Again, I have bigger fish to fry, and that is providing for my family and. Those people aren't taking my check away every 2 weeks.
Exactly.
So I certainly don't let them, you just bite your tongue and just keep on moving forward.
Do you see more violence or less violence?
Definitely our violent crimes have gone up over the last decade.
Have they?
That's something we absolutely talk about at the station. Where our white collar crime, obviously, with identity theft, we have a detective. That's all he does. Right. White collar crime. Right. And his case file is it's constant. It's stunning, But the violent crime, just because I think society, it's changed.
Has it?
And I think values and morals are not as great as they used to be.
They're situational today.
Yes.
What's good for me, right?
Yes. So I think a lot of times your violent crimes are definitely up, and people's patience with each other, road rage again. People snap on traffic, on each other in traffic. We've all seen it.
Yep.
And it's just the world we're in.
So Scott, do you see? Are you positive? Are you out? Do you have a good outlook on our society moving forward, or what is your perspective? Are you optimistic?
I am optimistic. I do think we'll be okay.
Okay.
But quite frankly, my wife and I are probably moving more out east into rural area where we're rural already, and we just want to take care of our family, take care of ourselves, take care of our neighbors, take care of our church, and that's important to us.
Sure.
And we care for people, but also we want to kind of go
do your
go
thing
out,
when
go
you do
out
your
there.
thing, right?
Be beekeepers, which I'm definitely allergic to. Not again, that's the stupid wrestling mentality. My hobby could kill me, but I do it.
I love it.
That's a moron.
You're a pure
right there.
bison.
I guess so. Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I really want to thank you for your service to our
again,
community.
Not necessary, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I know
Pete.
that a lot of people don't like to be thanked, but I'm going to thank you because
I always take a thank you.
I love
you.
you.
I love you too, Pete.
And I want to thank you for coming in here and sharing some of your thoughts, some of your memories, and also some of your philosophy about our society. And I wish you well for the next couple of years, and then of course into retirement.
And as always, thank you, and we'll always love you. And thank you for introducing me to Sly and the Family Stone. still remember those days of going to wrestling tournaments in the summer and Sly in the car.
Absolutely,
awesome music.
It's about paying it forward, man.
Yeah,
sharing the love, So, thank you for coming in.
Thank you, and thank you, Maverick. Thank you again.
We are Blood. This is Blood Time. Coach Cimrone here. Thanks a lot. Cheers.